Hi, I'd just
Hi.
like to share something with you from the last session.
Okay.
With Angela, when we were doing the exercises. I was quite overwhelmed, really, mainly because I was thinking about a pet that was very special to me, German Wire Dachshund called Dibner, who we lost, unfortunately, quite tragically.
Right.
He would have made a great hypnotist. He looked to stare in your eyes. What was amazing, she had this image of an animal, right, Angela? Can you just quickly describe what you had an image of?
Well, it was just this dog face, suddenly appeared in front of my eyes as I closed my eyes. It faded quite quick, but with the floppy ears and everything. And so I had to check to see, whether it was...
I'm constantly finding amazing things happening to me since I actually arrived here.
Right.
I just found that incredible. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Yeah, give me a round of applause for that. By the way, notice the emotion in terms of, thank you for coming up and saying that. There's clearly a lot of emotion behind that, yes? Do you see what kind of things hypnosis can stir up? What kind of doors it can open inside the mind, right? This is why I'm going to ask you to be extra careful. This is not a toy that you're playing with here. Be very respectful of what you're using here. Are you beginning to get a much finer appreciation of what I say, or what I mean when I say hypnosis is anything but a casual relationship? And when something as important as this sort of stuff, you don't want to be just abusing it, using it everywhere you go, because you could leave a lot of emotional shrapnel behind, which is not very useful. If you do it in a judicial manner, in a way that's really helpful to people around you, you can be a real force for good, then yes, by all means, be the masked stranger that rides in and crazy stuff happens and they ride out and go, who was that masked man? But wow, I'm so glad he came, It's like that TV show back in the 80s. I don't know if you remember it. It's a Canadian one, I think. The Littlest Hobo, the dog that solves all problems, right? The point, though, is you do want to be very careful about how and when you apply this stuff. And it's very useful, of course, to be influential with it, which is kind of the purpose of being here. But this is when it's important to really think about what is the win-win here, right? Are you doing this because you want something at their expense? In which case, I strongly recommend you rethink things, because the penalty you will pay for that will be very steep. Or are you doing it because you're really helping them get unstuck from something so they can start accepting an idea or a way of life that will be of real value to them? And in which case, really all you're doing is you're getting them unstuck and then making them offers. If your offer is good enough, they'll take it. If your offer is no good, then they really shouldn't be taking it, right? So if you're trying to sell some kind of a dodgy business scheme where they sell, the life savings to you and you run away and go, ha, 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 now I'm rich and you're not, then, well, I won't be visiting you in jail, let's put it that way. But thank you for that. I really appreciate you saying that. Do you want to stand up? There's a mic over here as well, please.
It's just when we finished the last induction there, it made me think that hypnosis is not something that you're doing to someone, it's something that you're doing with them.
Yeah.
I just was quite profound.
I think that's very true. And I'll go one step further. Hypnosis is not even do you do something with someone, it's something you become. And then it just happens naturally. Just imagine the world what the world would be like if you'd mastered this instant rapport technique to the point where whenever you needed to really be friends with someone or open someone up, it just naturally turned on. You didn't even have to think about it, it was just there. And people opened up to you in the way that you've been experiencing so far. There's not much you have to do at that point, is there? All you have to be is respectful and kind enough to point out some ways of being different or opening them up and so on. And kind of the magic happens by itself at that point almost. So it's a great insight to have that it's something you do with people. And the next step on your progression will be to realize it's something you become, it's something you are. And people naturally respond this way to you. And that's really the heart of real, charisma or influence and so on. You get the idea, guys? All right. Unless there's any other questions or comments, it's time to dive into some content again. Oh, one over here, please.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you, I suppose, really, because I think it's very important to create an environment like this. because I've been using hypnosis myself with clients. And I think the root of most problems is just loneliness.
Yeah.
And people are dying for intimacy sometimes, a safe intimacy, of feeling minded.
Yeah.
And I just think it's lovely meeting all you fabulous people as well, and knowing that there's good people out there, you know.
Very
So
nice.
thank
Thank you for saying that. And just to add something to that, although we won't be going down the whole therapeutic route here, there's one really nice description I heard once of hypnotherapy, which is when you're doing hypnotherapy, your job as a therapist is to basically take that part of the other person that the other person can't accept about themselves, has mistreated because they think it's ugly or bad or disgusting or whatever, and treat it with enough respect for long enough that they can learn to accept it. And in accepting it, they get to transform it, right? So that's another aspect of the same thing you're talking about. So yes, although we won't be going down the therapeutic road because that requires a different kind of skill set on top of this, right? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say something really unexpected happened when we went out to coffee. I haven't been on one of these seminars before, and I'm not in hypnosis myself. But I found that despite being really reticent yesterday, and I didn't make any effort to socialise, guys, I made some really good friends in the coffee queue, and, you know, so something's going on.
Something is going on, I agree. All right, guys. So let's see if we can take this going on and intensify it some more, shall we? What I'd like you to do is just back in the same groups you were in beforehand. I think we've had a slight reshuffling, so just turn into your groups and please recount. And let me know if there's an odd number by having one member stand up. Please choose a different person inside your group to do this next exercise with. Okay, so here's what we're going to do next. Next exercise is just going to do a little bit of skill building. What I'd like you to do is one person in your group, just put your hand up. One person in each pair, put your hand up. Right? You're the hypnotist. Simple. All right. In a moment, we'll start the exercise. That's it. You can put your hands down now. You're the hypnotist. That's all you need to know. We do the exercise. I'm going to give you 2 minutes apiece to do this one. And what I'd like you to do is the hypnotist is start off with your eyes closed. I'd like you to take yourself through the instant rapport technique. And remember, the process is very simple. Think of a person or a pet that you really had a close connection to. Not romantic, please. Any ideas why we want to specifically avoid any romantic memories? Any ideas? Because you do not want to make the person think that you want to sleep with them. Because either they might agree with you, and then you're in a pickle, or they don't really want that, and then the resistance goes even higher, right? So please keep the romantic elements out of this one. So you're going to start off by thinking of a person or pet that you had a close friendship with. When you feel the feelings, allow them to grow and let go of the memory. Once you have enough of that feeling being strong enough, allow it to kind of surround you and then move through the other person, and then you can open your eyes and look at them, right? That's stage 1, instant rapport technique. Stage 2, of course, you'll be doing the same looking process you did a moment ago, and hopefully that whole thing will only take less than a minute to kind of warm up on. Stage 3, this is the important part. At some point, once you've opened your eyes and made eye contact, I'd like for you to begin talking with them. For this exercise, I do not care what you say. You can repeat a word. You can start talking randomly. If you need something to say, just use your power words and trance themes. We'll do that more specifically later again. But I don't want you to have to think of what to say. Saying anything is appropriate at this point. Does that make sense to you guys? Here's the trick. Only start speaking as slowly and gradually as you can maintain or increase this feeling of rapport that you've been developing. If your rate of speech somehow diminishes that, then stop, reconnect, instant rapport technique and so on, and start again. Because otherwise, what could happen is this, which is not really pleasant, is it? So, you'll start off with the instant rapport technique. you'll open your eyes, maintain the eye contact, and at some point, you'll begin talking about anything. The content is irrelevant for our purposes. But you only talk as slowly and as smoothly and in whatever tonality will continue to maintain that feeling you have inside. You might erode it a little bit because you've gone from non-verbal to verbal, which is okay. But if it gets more than eroded a little bit, then pause and reset, right? The key is maintaining the state of mind whilst engaging in speech. Do you understand the nature of this exercise, folks? Yes? You have a quick question over here. Can we have a mic over there, please? Okay.
Yes.
Hello? There you go.
Also maintaining eye contact while speaking?
Absolutely. Eye
All right.
contact throughout the entire process.
Lovely.
Thank you. All right, guys, are we ready? 2 minutes apiece. Starts now. This is our special fitness program for assistants.
Hi, yeah. As a subject, I noticed that I was immediately very interested in everything he had to say. I really wanted to hear it instantly.
Did anyone else notice this? Yeah? This is one of the ways that you can make really boring things sound great. I'm serious. It's strange, but it's true. Go ahead.
Yeah, my hypnotist gave me a hypnotic gift, which is really good. Learn it from you as well. But
wonderful. Gifts
it was
giving is a
precious
wonderful
gift.
thing. Yeah, well, especially, hypnotic gifts don't cost you anything. You don't have to go to the store and buy them. So excellent, thank you. Go ahead, stand up.
Yeah, it's just interesting how powerful that connection is because, when I went into this one and I'm trying to think of my friend, that's sadistic. I'm thinking of my partner from the last exercise, and the same, I went second in this one, and we made such a connection there that he's just completely filled my brain.
Yeah, so what's happening now is you're actually developing more and more reference experiences, aren't you? It started off with an initial friend, but now you have some cool inductions you've been doing here too, and all that starts adding up to it, doesn't it? Who here feels that hypnosis room starting to really get decorated nicely? So looking at some pretty cool furniture in here, some good memories going on in here. This is how it really should be. That means that the more you do this, not only the more pleasant it becomes for you, but the better you come at it because it's all nicely located in the right place. The next thing you'll find is that as you live your day-to-day life and you accidentally fall into a hypnotic context, a hypnotic situation, which everyone does all the time, even if they don't recognize it, well then those memories will automatically be stored in your hypnosis room and it will still enrich it. Does that make sense to you guys? Because the same mechanisms are being activated, only now you know how to enter that room on purpose, which is a good thing. So anyone else go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, there's something very strange that I noticed. It's the first time it's happened, actually, doing this. I don't know whether anybody ever watches sci-fi or Star Trek or whatever. The concept of a retractor beam.
Okay.
I was very aware that I could almost picture like this line, this ray that kind of came from my heart right to his for that entire duration. And then when you said, right, change places, I felt it go right back again. Yeah. It's the first time it's happened in the weekend. Very strange.
Yeah, it's powerful. The thing is, what you just discovered is this is a hypnotic or unconscious symbolism in action, right? And it's one of the ways you can use the dynamic mental imagery induction. When I first taught the instant rapport technique, and I believe on the original Power of Conversation Hypnosis audio home study program, I still taught it in that way, was this idea of like a hand coming, reaching out and touching the other person, because I had a very similar version of that. Now I just give you a more general thing and let people find their own metaphor, because after all, what is a metaphor? Right? Go ahead.
It's a question, really, Igor. I normally speak quite loudly, project quite well. During that second process when I was the hypnotist, I just sort of felt I needed to be softer with the person I was with, and it was absolutely natural. It just wasn't my normal pitch or tone. It was a lot lower, a lot softer, a lot slower.
And you can hear it now, can't you guys? So you're developing a range, which is very important, and more importantly than that, you're starting to develop the ability to match your ideas to your language, to the context, the emotional context it's all wrapped up in. In our society, we don't pay attention very much to the emotional context of things. We just react to it, which means half the time we don't know why something failed. Whereas if you were looking at just from purely an emotional filter, it would be obvious, without even looking at the content of something, why things are failing. I'll give you a quick example of this, if I may. In the medical industry, there is a guy who now specializes in, basically he can predict which doctors will be sued often from being played a 2-minute audio clip of random bits of conversation within something like 99% accuracy. He can still be something like 80 to 90% accurate with a 10-second audio clip. What is he listening out for? Is it all the words? No. He's just learned to put on this emotional filter, and as soon as he hears that someone's being emotionally harsh, dismissive, or anything like that, he knows that doctor is getting sued. That's just how it works, right? Not necessarily by that patient, but that's the kind of doctor that gets sued by patients. So if you think about the emotional things like, oh, it's this woolly, fluffy, let's go hug a bunny thing, there's some serious cash that's involved in this whole process as well. And if our society understood it better, we'd not only be wealthier, but we'd also be a lot happier because there'd be much more seamless interaction, shall we say. So congratulations on discovering that. Anything else? Okay.
I find it very beautiful how, like here, when I was talking before, I wasn't good in talking to groups or so. I'm a musician, I can play for hours, but speaking is very difficult for me. Mm-hmm. But now, the building stones are already laying there, but now I can, when I get a good feeling, I can be creative to pick up that building stones and make more beautiful house where we are living in.
Perfect. I like that. By the way, if you're a performer like a magician, if you start bringing language like this sort of stuff into your acts as well, oh, musician, sorry. That can forget it. If anyone else is a magician, this stuff really works well. All right, guys. Anyone else? Oh, just a couple more. Wow, you guys really enjoyed this exercise. Over here. If you stand up, then he'll know where to come to next.
I really just wanted to agree with my hypnotist. I was just wanted to say yes.
Yes, you're so right. I don't know what you're saying, but you're so right. I've been there. But by beginning to see the value of what you've done, look, you guys haven't even been through a day and a half of training yet. We're in the first morning of the second day. And look what you are already achieving. Who here feels that if you left right now, not only would you have got your money's worth, but you would be insanely more influential in your life just using the skills you already have? Hands up, please. Right? And we're not even halfway through the program. So something to look forward to. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I'm very glad that you said, say anything, it doesn't matter, talk rubbish, because I actually found that I couldn't talk rubbish.
Yep.
The respect was there.
Yep.
The feelings were there. So it would have, for me anyway, been impossible to have. And I'm so glad you said it, because that brought it to mind.
Yeah, and you know what? This is important. We've done this a few versions of this already, and I'm glad it triggered here. So I will reiterate this principle. We are meaning-making machines. We cannot be incoherent. Even incoherent people aren't really incoherent. They just work on a very different logic. The point is, though, that when you're trying too hard to do something, it'll all come out wrong. By not trying so hard, all the useful things start coming out. And ultimately, when you're using conversational hypnosis, all you know is, here's a person in front of me, here's kind of the place I want to end up in, let's find out what happens in between. And all these tools will apply themselves or disengage depending on what needs to happen at that point in time. Does that make sense to you guys? Go ahead.
Thanks. Something just clicked in my head when we were doing this exercise. I'm a coach, and so I use some of these techniques every day. And it was just when I was talking to my partner that I was saying to her, I sell happiness. And it just was something I wanted to share with you guys. That's what we're here for, you know. We're here to sell happiness. And if we feel it inside, we sell it. That's
there you go. I think that's a great way of looking at it. And this gentleman over here. Oh, go ahead. Will.
We made an extra try with my partner here. we are from different countries. She's from Holland and I'm from Slovenia. And we tried to speak in our languages.
Oh, okay.
And it was funny. I didn't understand her no word, but I agree totally with her.
In fact, it's funny, one of the assistants here did exactly the same thing. We had a chat once a long time ago about the problems of hypnosis and the right words don't come and so on. I was trying to attempt to show him a much cruder version of this H+ stuff. It was not as evolved back then. So I did exactly the same thing. I sat down and I started talking to him in German. And he had no idea what I was talking about, but within a few minutes, came back. What the hell did you just do? It's good, wasn't it? So you understand now, creating this hypnotic context, that's really what we've been spending most of our time doing. And yes, we've got some interesting gadgets we can use inside of that context. But if you don't set this context up correctly, none of these gadgets will be any value to you whatsoever, right? So let's really develop this particular part of the skill, and everything else just feeds on top of that. This is the spine on which the whole animal is built. Go ahead.
So as you asked us to go into that exercise, I heard from you 2 minutes apiece. 2 minutes of peace, which I think is another example of how we can play on words.
Yep.
And how we can put meaning on them.
You are ahead of the game on that one, absolutely.
Thank you.
Don't catch me at it again. Okay, guys. So, there was another hand here? Did you want, or was there not a hand? Are you volunteering someone else to talk for you? Was there actually a question there or a comment? Can we have the mic over here? So I just saw him pointing at you and I wasn't sure if you were about to explode or had something to say or just, hello, nice to meet you.
I'm just curious, some of us have done a lot of this before, some of us are brand new, but all of us are developing a receptivity towards becoming hypnotized, and we're not going to find that out in the rest of the world.
You're not going to find it in the same way.
In the same way.
No, you're going to find something different.
Okay, that's enough. You can address it.
So first of all, we're still doing training with some degree here, right? In here, you have both an advantage and a disadvantage, especially when it comes to conversational hypnosis. The advantage that you have is you're right. People here are going to be more compliant, they're more willing to forgive mistakes and go with things and so on. Absolutely, no question about that. That's why this is training, right? The disadvantage that you have here is that absolutely everyone in this room knows exactly what you are doing, which means the unconscious mechanisms, the defense mechanisms, the resistance mechanisms, and so on, that are unconsciously driven, they can't bypass them because they're unconsciously driven, right? So you'll get to a certain point, and you can't really get that much further here because they know what you're doing. Out there, it's a very different story. Yes, it's a bit more live. And yes, you may have to work a little harder to arrest that attention in the first place. Absolutely true. Or they go with some people, it'll be a lot easier too. That's just the range of humanity. The big advantage you have is they have no idea what you are doing, right? Which means you get to work with genuinely true unconscious moments. They're not being nice to you, they're just being themselves. So when an unconscious moment arises, it hasn't been offered to you on a plate with semi-caution and saying, yeah, I'll let you play with this now. That's okay as far as I'm concerned. It's the actual real deal, which means the chances you have in regular conversations can be more intensely powerful than this because you have the right context. I'll give you a specific example, if I may. Actually, believe it or not, this actually happened in a training context, which is why I accidentally did this. I didn't realize this. This is back in my earlier days when I was starting to learn better versions of hypnosis. And I was entering someone's seminar, and it was an advanced hypnosis seminar, so you expect everyone there is advanced hypnotists, right? Because they've obviously done all this stuff before. And the very first exercise he gave us as a warm-up says, okay, just as a warm-up, go find your partner, put them in trance, and create a learning experience, a learning trance for them so that when we come back and do some work, they're ready to go with trance and learning and so on, right? So fine. It's not exactly a no-brainer. It's a bit of a no-brainer for me because they're not exactly going to work against me in this venue, right? So I thought, I might as well go out on a limb here, and I'll play with an instant induction I once saw. I was, at this point, very afraid of instant inductions because I didn't understand them. So I did the classic handshake interrupt, and I went, all right, let's go, yeah. Stand here, you ready? Good. Boom, boom, look, there, sleep. 5 minutes later, she comes back, and she is dazed. She's like staggering, blinking her eyes, going, what the hell just happened? You know, we just did the exercise. Goes, I've never been in trance before in my life. And it's only because I assumed that everyone here is a gifted subject because, you know, they're advanced hypnotists. I had at that point no concept that someone could be an advanced hypnotist without having gone into trance, that I had the gumption to do all this stuff. And I did it with such flair that it worked. And I was gobsmacked. I went back that night and went, what the hell happened there? And that's one of the things that influenced me in terms of kind of the work that we're doing. So will it work the same way out there? Not at all. It'll work better. Do you get the idea? And there'll be situations where, you know, where you'll have to work harder for the initial stages, but then same is true in anywhere, right? All right, folks. So let's get ready for the next exercise. You can switch partners for this one. So just very quickly to switch to partner inside your group. All right. So we started this morning off with H+. Is that correct? All right. So then we went to H+, and then we added to it just some conversation, right? And it invariably became more hypnotic in nature, whether or not you officially try to do anything hypnotic. Is that correct? So I want to start getting into something a little bit more. I want to get into something semi-conversational. So we're not going to go fully conversational just yet, but I want to go halfway house between what you know, which is more obvious trances, and conversation hypnosis, which is a bit more live. I want to go a bit of a hybrid between the two, right? This is a semi-covert kind of trance. Well, it'll be overt, but we're doing slightly different. I'd like you to begin doing exactly the same thing as earlier on, and you'll start talking as you did earlier on. See if you can get that warm-up routine a little bit faster this than before. Just gives you a little bit more talking time, all right? But then don't rush it too much either. Just go to whatever level works for you. But attempt to take a few seconds of your time, like an Olympic athlete, right? Now, when it comes to the talking stage, I'd like you to do 3 things that you've already done, and all 3 are very simple, right? The first thing, I want to ask you to make sure that your partners keep their eyes open throughout this process. If at some point they just have to close their eyes because it just feels too good, that's fine. But you're not overtly looking for eye closure. It actually is more useful to you if they stay with their eyes open. Make sense to you guys? But then again, don't hold them back if they're really desperate to go there. The first thing I want you to do in your conversation is, you remember the coaching we did with the trance signals, right? Where you said, oh, you can relax your shoulders a bit and relax your neck a little bit and all that sort of stuff. Do exactly the same coaching, except for the eye closure parts. Make sense? So you do your trance signals, and then in the same kind of hypnotic rhythms you just were talking about a moment ago, you're now going to use some useful stuff like just relax your shoulders a bit, that's it, and so on, right? You're going to ratify what they're already doing correctly. So, you know, your shoulders are nicely relaxed, right? Actually, I want to add one more thing in a moment, which you do not have to do just if you feel like an extra challenge. And then the third part of what I'm asking you to do is remember the trance themes, relaxation, comfort, and so on, and with the power words to riff around that. Just riff around those. So you're going to be doing ratifying, that's it, your shoulders are relaxing. Now, relax your arms a little bit more. And because you're relaxed, you can find that comfort developing inside you and so forth. And your breathing will change. Change your breathing now. You see where I'm going with this? For those of you who want an additional challenge, you don't have to do this, but it'll be fun. You like the title already, don't you? So for those of you who want an extra challenge on that, because this is really kind of straightforward. I'll adjust the thing in a minute. It's really, hijacking and ratifying are very similar processes. This and this are really very similar, identical things, but it looks a little different to the unconscious. When you hijack something, you're actually going to take something they're already doing and suggest it. When you ratify something, you're just going to say, well done, your shoulders are relaxed. When you hijack something, when you see them relax their shoulders, you see them change their breathing, you tell them, and now change your breathing. Well done, you just did it. Now, if you catch the timing right, what will happen is they'll feel like you've just suggested it, and they've responded to the suggestion. So you basically hijacked an unconscious response. Do you get the idea of that? This is a preliminary version of this. Hijacking becomes very, very useful to you later on, but we might as well just throw it in there just for fun if you want to do it. I don't care whether or not you do, by the way, guys. Honestly, it's not important. All I care about is that you go from just random conversation like earlier on towards the specific hypnotic elements that we've been playing with, which is the trance signals, ratifying a trance response, and then some basic trance themes to riff around. So you're getting a little bit more technically hypnotic in your trance process. Does that make sense to you guys? You have a quick question? Did we skip over the conversation? Absolutely. You're replacing, in the last trance, you did the conversational element. You're replacing the conversational element here with these three more hypnotic elements, right? We'll come back to the more conversational stuff in time. Anyone else here not yesterday? So we might as well take it as a group. You weren't here yesterday either. So why don't you guys just swap partners? If you stand up a second, and if you stand up for a second. So go ahead and stand up. There you go. If you guys want to head towards the back, and then one of the assistants will come and work with you guys. Your assistant, would you stand up for a moment, sir? You're his partner, right? If you come over here and replace this lady, then you already have a partner as well. And if you just grab a couple of chairs at the back, then Eric, would you mind running them through what we did yesterday during the next set of processes? Okay, guys, thanks for that. So just go right back. Just grab this lady. We just grab this lady, and then Eric will come and join you guys. Eric, just give him some chairs, and then he'll take you through some things over there. All right, everyone else knows what they're doing. Is that correct? Oh, one more question over here. We've run out of assistants to bring you a mic now. Go ahead. Oh, the TT is trance themes. Remember yesterday we talked about trance themes? So TS stands for trance signals, where you're doing the coaching element. Ratify, of course, is ratify. We could have an R there if you want. And TT stands for trance themes, things like comfort, relaxation, and so on. Everyone clear on the exercise? Yes? All right, guys. Remember, you will start in silence. You should be starting in silence because you're going to start with the H+ exercise, the instant rapport technique. All right? So from there, your time starts now. So how did I go? Oh, Jakob's got it. That's excellent. How did I go? Was that interesting? What kind of things happened? Stand up.
One of the great things that Kevin just did by noticing some of the micro movements just brought more focus and attention to them, so they exaggerated them. So it felt like it was going deeper, or there was an element of the hijacking going on.
Right.
Really good.
So that's actually, remember the law of attention? Where attention goes, energy flows. Notice how paying attention to an unconscious signal can either bring in the law of attention, which is in this case, and deepen it and have a more powerful experience, right? On occasion, it can bring in the law of reverse effect, where the conscious mind starts analyzing and tries to control it and stops. But if you've got the other things right, you've got the right hypnotic context and so on, you're more likely to go down the law of attention route than the law of reverse effect, as some of the people did yesterday. So, well done. What else did you guys notice? Was that it? One person? All right. Okay, stand up and we'll get a mic to you.
I just want to share two quick thoughts, really. One is that it compounds the suggestions at quite a profound level. So I found when Miguel was making the suggestions, they had a much, much deeper effect, and that's been happening consistently throughout the exercises. So that's, excuse me, I guess one element.
Absolutely. So we've discovered there, and I've been waiting for someone to say this, is the law of compounding effect. The law of compounding effect is actually a principle in hypnosis that actually was discovered some centuries ago now. Actually, around Braid's time, that's when we started looking more at the idea of suggestion as a linguistic thing. And essentially what it means is this. If I make you a suggestion A, and you accept it, and I follow up with suggestion B, and you accept that, responding to suggestion B will automatically reinforce suggestion A. If I make suggestion C, responding to suggestion C will reinforce suggestion B and suggestion A, and so on. You get the idea? Now this brings up a very important point, which is, even if you think your suggestions have failed, don't assume so. They may well have just been burning as a seed in the background, if I can mix my metaphors on that one. I'll give you an example. My sister a while ago now once told me of a party she went to. And at the party they had a hypnotist who was just a friend who's an amateur hypnotist, a little bit of street hypnosis. So one of the little things you try to do is you put someone in trance and try to get a post-hypnotic suggestion that when I scratch my ear or whatever, you'll have this irresistible urge to go to the table, pick up the vase of flowers and smell them, right? An innocent suggestion, isn't it? Person comes back, tweaks his earlobe, nothing happens. Tweaks it again, nothing happens. Tweaks it again, nothing happens. Ah, well, never mind. It was all good fun, right? She sees her friend again after about a week or so later. And she asks me, how have you been doing? And so on. And goes, great, only it's the most bizarre thing. Since that party the other week, I've been having these weird dreams about flowers everywhere. They just keep coming out of everywhere. So even when a suggestion doesn't seem to have been responded to, it may have done. And anything you do after that can still continue to reinforce it. You get the idea? That's another reason why we do the trance scenes in those little cycles, and you go around in cycles, because each time you cycle through it, you're going to get something more and more acceptable happening. Remember we talked about yesterday when we did the yes set and the piggyback principle? You keep coming back to the yeses, in between the plausibles and the implausibles and so on, because by responding to the yes and saying yes, the law of compounding effect makes it more likely that retroactively they'll look favorably on the plausible idea. Do you get the idea? There's a lot of relatively sophisticated psychology involved in this process, and I'm glad you discovered it.
I just want to share one other thing, which is that there's a lot of conscious, unconscious stuff happening as well. So I found myself, when with my partner, very much going, not just deeper, but I actually wanted to close my eyes. I wanted to whatever it may be that specific phenomena is for that person, that's what I wanted to do. And I felt the same for my partner. So there's very much that kind of juice, if you like, happening as well. So.
And that's really where the magic happens at, right? We'll do more about the conscious concept association probably tomorrow. But excellent, thank you. If you stand up, and he'll find you more easily. We'll go next, Tori.
What I found was that there were certain words like comfort, relaxation, themes that were just boom, 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 and I was just reacting to it without any thinking. The words linking them up, I really don't know what they were or what he was talking about, but there was, every time he kind of like said like, relax, comfort, things, that kind of theme. It was almost like I was tuned into that theme and was just reacting to them automatically, and that's what stuck in.
Perfect. So first of all, welcome to my world. That's kind of how it works. And secondly, you respond that once again, this is the law of compounding effect and law of attention combining to get this very, very profound and very engaging process, right? Notice how you said less in terms of social interactions and stuff. It was a little bit more rigidly defined this time. But you still had a very powerful effect as a subject, didn't you? Right? How many people here managed to keep their eyes open? Just hands up. How many people actually shut their eyes? Okay, that's fine. The reason I say that is because how many conversations do you have with people where you're like this? Right? So we're going to, for the most part of the rest of the course, we're going to be focusing more and more on open-eyed trances, because as soon as someone does this in front of you, unless you set a very specific context to make it permissible, and there are a few versions of this, they'll know you've done something, right? Every time I talk to them, I can't help it, I just do this. Do you think he's hypnotizing you? No. Right? So we had a question over here, Jakob. Just stand up and he'll find you more easily then.
It's a question about the rectification.
Yeah.
While, for example, we were doing the trends, and you can say to somebody else, that person relax, and you can say, okay, now you go deeper. Now, my question is, within a practical context, how do you use this rectification to get somebody into a
so here's two different contexts. One is the hypnotherapy context, the overt hypnotic context. All you say is, well done, your shoulders are nicely relaxed. Excellent, done. The other question is, how do you do it in a conversational context? Yes. We're not there yet.
Okay. Okay.
All right, guys. So, did you enjoy that last little trance exercise? who noticed that now with their eyes open, you're still seeing pretty much exactly the same trance signals as before. It's just this one isn't one of them, right? The eyes closing is not the one, right? Who's actually beginning to notice more and more subtle stuff now? Like little twitches, hands up, little twitches, a little pulse change, maybe a little angle or change of the movement there. Their breathing suddenly shifts and you notice it. How did you get good at that? How do you do that? Because yesterday we didn't talk about that, did we? We just looked about big stuff, didn't we? And yet today, you're seeing all those little nuances, the subtle stuff, the little twitch in the eyebrow, the shift in the breathing, the moving of the shoulder, the twitch of a finger. How do you get good at seeing all these things? If not, for an unconscious learning process, right? You've been so busy tinkering in your hypnotic room, you paid no attention to the man behind the curtain who was doing things which were much more sophisticated and much more important. So, this would be a good time for you to reflect on a simple idea. You really, I'm probably right in thinking that most of you here feel like you have achieved a lot already in the last day and a half. Is that correct? And you're aware that you've achieved that because you've done the exercise and you've seen the results, correct? So knowing what we know about implicit learning, about unconscious learning, however much you think you've achieved in the last day and a half, think about all the other things you have really achieved and you have no idea about doing so yet. Isn't that something? And we haven't even finished yet. Because the next exercise is going to take this idea another step forward. So, we'll start the same way with the H+. That's going to be our starting position for everything now, right? If you wish to do any of the trance signals I defined, trance themes, hijacking, and so on, you're more than welcome to do that. I don't care. You can do it or not. It's entirely up to you, okay? The thing I want you to focus on right now, exclusively, is the idea of a yes set. Now, we haven't really elaborated on the yes sets yet, made them particularly conversational. Trust me, we will. But you already have a couple of pretty decent ones you've played with, haven't you? You have the simple facts. You can list just random facts, right? Not very conversational, but it can fit sometimes. And you have the universal experiences, which you played with last night with the water and so on, correct? So I'd like you to just play and collect a whole bunch of yeses. This is going to be a very easy version of it, so I'm going to give you a little less time. And then we'll come back and we'll do a fuller version of this with a little bit more time. Make sense? So have you already changed partners? Very quickly change partners in your group. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes, a minute and a half apiece. All you're going to do is start with your H+, and then just collect an insane amount of yeses. All right, guys? Off you go. What kind of things do you notice? Anything interesting happening there? Yes, but I'm not talking about it. Go ahead. Behind you.
Thank you. One thing that I noticed is Daniel didn't really give any suggestions, but just yes after yes after yes, I was like, and I could hardly really even listen to what he was saying anymore. I had just no idea what he was talking about.
So you're kind of in this trance where you just accept and you're waiting for him to do something. All right, give me something to agree with properly now, right? Yeah. So something we'll be about to play with in a minute. Oh, just pass it on.
No. One of the things I noticed, because you say the way you looked at it, you do some paces and then you give the suggestion, but actually the kinds of paces you do can actually contain suggestions as well.
Yep. So now you're trying to combine the yes set with the piggyback principle. And, well, we're going to go into that a little bit more in a moment. Anyone else have anything to comment over here in the back?
It was really fun because we just did it so fast. So
I take my minute, Cindy take her minute, and after that we start to yes set each other. I make one sentence or two, and she made one sentence or two. So it's like from the gun. Yes set, and yes set.
It's kind of like the dueling
from each
hypnotist
other.
game.
So it's really fun after that.
When I was starting off in hypnosis, I played a very similar game I called the dueling hypnotist. It was actually done with more with power words and trance themes. And you can play this yourselves. It's actually a lot of fun. We have some time later on today, and we might do something like this. And all you do is you take the. I actually use the street hypnosis deck for this because it's actually fun to do with cards. So you each have a deck. You flip a card over. So that's your power word, and you have to have your trance theme, whichever it is. So you basically do two or three cards, and they do 2 or 3 cards, and you just keep swapping backwards and forward. And the aim, of course, is basically the last man standing. Your aim is to get the other person to just zonk out on the table, drooling like an idiot, going kunk. If you manage to succeed, then you win the game, right? Usually what happens is, somewhere halfway through the deck, you're both kind of holding cards at the same time, and you're looking at each other dazed, going, what's happening? I have no idea. So it's a lot of fun doing that. Go ahead, Cindy.
Oh, I just wanted to say that Jakob has such an excited yes already. It was really easy to work with him, and the experience was completely natural, and it really just flowed so easily with him.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, over here.
Yeah, I noticed that my hypnotist was getting me so much into this yes mood that for my own awareness, I had no trance or anything, more the contrary, that I was getting, all enthusiastic and more activated rather than going, oh.
So let me ask you this. What makes you think that a trance has to be like this?
Yeah, well.
Right?
I did really feel sucked in with what he was saying, so in that sense
So now what you're learning, and I'm very glad you said this, is there are different types of trances you create for people for different things, right? Let's imagine you're a sports coach, and you're about to give your football team a nice pep talk before they go out on the pitch. Relax. And you hit the goal each time, and it all comes staring out like, oh no, we lost. Right? Wouldn't be the most useful thing to do, right? So, because we're going towards more conversational hypnosis now, be aware that the emotional energy, shall we say, in terms of how energized the person is irrelevant in terms of hypnosis. There's a misconception in a portion of the hypnotic community. They think that basically relaxation plus imagination equals hypnosis. It does not. There's plenty of people who have been relaxed and imagined stuff, and nothing of value has happened as a result. There's plenty of people who have been hypnotized without any bit of imagination being involved either. What relaxation and imaginations do is they stack the deck to make it very likely for a hypnotic context to occur. When someone's relaxed enough, the tendency is for the critical factor to be shut off. Then the imaginings, which are more the symbolic domain of the unconscious, can have a deeper impact and so on and so forth. You get the idea? So just because we spend the early portion of our training focused on relaxation as the trance thing, all it does is it slows things down enough for you to see them. Now that you can see them, you can start speeding them up again or having them relax, depending on the context that you're in, and it won't matter. You'll still have the same thing. You were very eager to hear the next yes, weren't you? And you were very eager to agree with it, weren't you?
Yep.
Am I doing it right now?
Yeah.
Right? Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, guys, so time for the next little exercise. You got a lot of yeses and it was fun, and you started discovering that there is more of a roller coaster ride when it comes to conversational hypnosis, correct? What I want you to do now is put some of the things we've been playing together with so far together. How many of you, by the way, did the hijacking thing in the previous exercise? Anyone? Hands up? Okay, great. If you haven't done it yet, that's fine. There's no problem because you're about to do it. We're going to start off with a few simple yes sets. We're going to start off with the H plus, of course, and a few simple yes sets, right? In fact, just to make it interesting, would you make it a little bit interesting? Let's go with the theme of water again, drinking water. You really want to drink water? Oh my God, I've got to think of something practical now. Yeah, he grabbed his bottle like, I'm getting a head start here. All right. You don't have to do the water thing. I think it's just interesting to have a actual outcome in mind. So you can use it or not. It's up to you guys, right? The interesting part is, after collecting only a few yeses, this is important. After collecting only a few yeses, I want you to purposefully collect a no. I mean by no is actual disagreement, right? You realize that people can agree with you and still say no, don't you? Do you think it's a good idea to kill a baby? Are you agreeing with me? There is an overall kind of agreement in the background. I'm not suggesting you kill a baby. I'm already implying in my question that no is the appropriate response. Does it make sense? So a different kind of yes said we'll come on to later. So the kind of no I'm looking for here is not a secret yes, no. One where they actually say, no, you idiot, that's not true. Does it make sense? Yeah? So yes said, then get an actual no, an actual disagreement. The more intense you can get the disagreement, the better. But please do not start a fisticuff thing over this one. All right? The reason you want the no, because you're going to train something interesting, which is, I want you to then hijack their no. How are you going to hijack their no? You're going to do it in the exact same way as you'd hijack a trance signal. You're going to suggest their resistance. So let's say, I'm going to use the water example. Let's say I said, and you really want to drink of water now, don't you? And you go, no. So then my response is, that's right. You really didn't want that drink of water at all, did you? In fact, not drinking that water is exactly what you wanted, isn't it? Where have I just gone to? The hijacking has just started my next yes set sequence. Do you get the idea? Do you understand the value of hijacking? Yes? Any questions on that process? You can use the water example or not. Just the water makes it a little interesting. But if you want to just go with something random, I'm fine with that too. All right? So I'll leave this up for you guys in a second. Do you get the idea of the exercise? I'm going to give you 2 minutes apiece just so you can really go to town on this. Once you've got your simple yes set and they said no and you've hijacked it back to your yes set, don't spend the next 2 minutes just running on the yes set again. Go back to a few no's, get used to this idea of getting a no, automatically hijacking it, and then going back to yeses again. You get the idea? So let's have the mic ready, please. How did that go? Stand up, and we'll get the mic to you. Who's bringing the mic? Jakob? Go ahead.
It was fun because my first no set, this no, was not catched. But the second one, as I said, the learning with other people here is really good and stuff like that. And you can even go to someone who don't want to speak with you and train with him. And Cindy is, no. This reaction is, the yes set is becoming so natural that you just go with that.
Yes. So there's two things to be aware of, and we'll actually speak in a minute. One is, when you use yes sets naturally in eloquent situations, a lot of things that would otherwise be problems just get ignored, right? The one downside from that can be that they will basically ignore the fact that you said something in the first place. Kind of like the gentleman over here who didn't hear me say anything about projecting kindness and good things to the person, although he did it anyways. Some people will just blank out the suggestion as a way of deleting it so it didn't interfere with them. An example was yesterday, remember the elephant on the beach? A couple of people came up to me afterwards and said, I had the weirdest thing. Elephant? What are you talking about? I didn't hear you say anything about an elephant, right? How many of you had that sensation there was no elephant on your beach because you didn't even hear me say it, right? Not a huge amount, but it's a fair number here, like 6, 7, 8, 10, something like that. What's going on there is that the unconscious mind is deleting the suggestion because it's interfering with all the other pleasantness. So the only slight danger you have with just getting too crazy in the yes set is they'll just delete the idea without you knowing about it, so you don't know you've made progress or not, which is what we'll talk about in a minute as well. Luckily, in a conversational context, especially with things that are of more importance, you can hang around there long enough for them to realize, now I'm going to have to pay attention to this and actually decide whether or not I agree with it, right? And either way, whether they agree or not is irrelevant. We'll have tools to deal with the matter, whichever way it happens, right?
I've got a question. Is this conversational fractionation?
Is this conversation fractionation? In a way, it is, yes. Because you see, you don't have to have constant agreement for a conversation to run smoothly, right? But you do have to know how to make it, how to smooth that out eloquently. And then, when people know that they can have disagreement and it won't detract from the smoothness, it'll get even smoother because there's a fractionation process that goes on. Absolutely. Go ahead.
I was particularly interested in trying this exercise because it required my mind to be clear and to do first one way, then change gears, do it another way, and I wasn't sure if I'd be able to do it. But with all of the preparation that came up and the H+, I just thought, I'm not even going to think about it. I'm just going to hopefully let my mind just go and take over. And it was really clear, and I could do the yes and then make the no, and then hijack it and make a yes again. And I was very pleasantly surprised at how flowing it came.
Thank you.
And that mental shift could occur.
And that mental shift is part of what being in the hypnosis room is all about, right? If you've got the right mindset, the H+, it'll be a lot easier to do. If you're not, you're doing some very sophisticated things, some very complex things according to some. But really, isn't it easy, guys? Was it easy for you overall? Do the mindset. Get the mindset right, everything else becomes easy. Go ahead.
I actually found it kind of difficult to stay in H+ while I was trying to say something that he would disagree with.
Okay.
And I kind of had to shake myself out of this weird, that's right, that's right, you don't agree with that, do you? And another interesting thing that I don't remember.
Let me just pause before we go into another interesting thing. Remember, what we're doing right now is training wheels. This is designed to help you understand something, right? It's not often, there'll be times, but it's not often when you will purposely look for a no in a conversation. The only time it's useful to flush out the no's is so you know what no's are ahead, right? Usually what will happen in a conversation is you'll say something expecting a yes, but it gets rejected. And that's what we're preparing you for. And there's a couple of other things we can do with that as well, but now you have the basic pattern, shall we say. What was the other thing yet?
I have a feeling you'll cover it anyway,
okay.
So.
I have a follow-up to it, because you're saying we're becoming prepared for the situation where a no comes up. And I feel that it's difficult at first to actually head for a no and feel all right with getting a no. So what we're learning, or what I'm learning here right now, is to feel comfortable with getting a no and just...
Well, let's face it, life happens, right? Stuff happens. Nothing's going to go perfectly for you all the time. You're better off having a way of dealing with things, like no's when they happen. Over here on the right, just pass it, Carson. Pass it over here. You're better off learning how to deal with things when they arise. If you can avoid them, if you can prevent them from happening in the first place, great. But I don't think anyone is as good as that, and that you can avoid every single problem every single time. So you need to have some tools for if it happens, so that you're not fazed. Why should you be fazed by it? It's just part of life, right? Go ahead.
As the subject, I was faced with thinking water is the same as drinking water, is it not? And I felt the battle in my conscious mind saying no, and my unconscious mind saying, yes, it is, of course it is. And I thought, who's going to win here? And my unconscious mind ended up saying, yes, I'm sure it is. And it's the first time that's really...
It's interesting when you feel your own conscious and unconscious dissociation occurring, isn't it?
Yeah, it was really, really an experience.
Good. I'm glad you had it. Over here.
I was just going to say almost the same as our friend a few minutes ago, which is that it's the reframe that got me a little bit, because that's what I sort of interpreted the no to yes to be. Obviously, you're in the middle of that flow. They then break rapport, if you like, or present something that's going to effectively lead to disagreement, and you then effectively reframe them. And it's that reframing task that I also found difficult to stay focused upon, because at that moment I had to effectively take what they had and then reword that, if you like, and represent it in a different way it would be accepted again.
Well, congratulations on doing something a little extra. The simple version of hijacking is just simply agreeing with them. You really don't want that, or you don't really believe that at all, do you? Right? That's a really simple version. If you want to make it more complex by adding a reframe to it, we'll talk about reframing in due course, then by all means do so. I'd like to tell a little bit about a friend of mine who I think is in this room right now, who likes to do something very similar to this as a way of building very deep rapport very quickly with people. He will purposely upset people mildly, or actually sometimes less than mildly, to kind of spike their emotional thing. And then he will do a kind of a hijacking of the emotion and turn it around to something positive. And he's basically broken through all the social veneer, all the social safeguards and all the rest of it, literally within seconds. I had breakfast with him the other day, and it's the first time I've seen someone do this. We walk into the restaurant. It's like a kind of a, I guess Americans would call it a diner or a cafe here. And the owner walks out and gives him a great big hug. I went, that's unusual, right? And he just told me that's exactly what he did. He came in. The first time he likes to have a little fun with people. What he did was walked up to him at the end of his meal and said, you know, I don't usually complain. And I don't want you to feel upset about this, but that was the most awesome meal I've ever had. Can you feel the emotional roller coaster he's taking him through? Burst right through all of the social veneer, now they're like the best friends, right? So it's part of what's going on here, but we don't have to think about it too much. If you are afraid of getting a no, in terms of any conversation, it will invariably end up tainting that conversation one way or another. It may not matter, but it might be that little bit that does matter. Does that make sense? If you can get to the point where it's irrelevant, whether it's a yes or a no, because either way, you have somewhere to go with this, then you come from a much stronger position, and they will sense that, and they'll be much more okay with, A, being honest with you, which is useful, and B, you become more trustworthy. You become more trustworthy because they can be honest with you, because they know you won't fall apart at the seams and so on. Do you get the idea? That's one of the reasons we don't get through people's social veneer, because they're afraid that if they actually say what they really think, well, they might upset you, and then that's it. No more social interaction. See how that works? So we're getting some very deep stuff right now, which is interesting. Any other comments or questions in terms of what we're doing over here?
I just want to echo one of the comments made over here that I thought that was genius, really genius stuff. I'm a corporate coach and do a lot of mind reading, and sometimes you only get 5 minutes before you're kicked out, or what's the value you're going to add. And just as a way, if you get the mind reading slightly wrong, or if you hadn't quite recognized the patterns yet of being able to hijack it and get back into the yes set, genius, just genius.
Thank you. You'll love the next version of it even more. All right, guys, my magic senses tell me it's probably time for lunch. So you have some food for thought. So you may as well have some food to go with your thoughts. Let's be back here a little bit before it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.